What's up, everybody? My name is Tucker. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Hawks. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like rating on it and subscribe to the channel as well for more videos just like this one every single day. With those things said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is not a Hawks video that I had anticipated making coming into this season. This is a team that started slowly last year as well. However, they finished the year last year 18-7 in the regular season. They ended up as the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. And they were 2 wins away from making the NBA Finals. They were 2 wins away from representing the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. And right now, they're an under 500 basketball team. We're going to talk about why that's the case, what's been happening with Atlanta this season, and whether it's a huge issue, whether they're in trouble, whether it's like a gigantic thing that they're going to have to try and solve. But I wanted to start there because I think that without actually going back and looking at it, everybody has it in their mind that, oh, Atlanta was a nice, interesting story last year, but I'm not sure they really realize or remember how good that team was down the stretch, especially compared to how they played to begin the year last year, and really where the expectations were for this team. I mean, coming into the season, obviously there were teams like Chicago and Miami in the East that made moves that looked like they were going to be better, but you could have easily made a case that Atlanta was going to be a top 3, a top 4 seed in the regular season in the Eastern Conference this season. For them to be sitting at under 500 right now is certainly a surprise. So we got to talk about what's going wrong here with Atlanta. I think there's 3 big things to take a look at. The first for me is the defensive side of the floor. You can see on the screen, they're 25th in defensive rating right now. And obviously offensively, they're still an incredible team. I do have some issues there that we'll talk about. But relative to the way they played post All-Star break last year, they've been an absolute disaster defensively this year. And there's excuses for that. DeAndre Hunter hasn't been playing lately. We'll get to the injury stuff here in a little bit. But DeAndre Hunter missed a ton of games last year as well. And post All-Star break last year, they had the 12th best defensive rating in the league and the 9th best offensive rating in the league post All-Star break last year, as they finished the year, as I said, 18-7 down the stretch. And it's basically the same group. Granted, you can talk about guys being in and out of the lineup at different points, but essentially it's the same group, it's the same coach, and they're just not guarding well. I think part of that was this idea that Atlanta was going to come into the season and they were just going to be this awesome team, and that maybe they got a little bit full of themselves and they forgot that one of the reasons they started winning more basketball games was because they were competing on the defensive end. And in the postseason as well, they're a pretty good defensive team to go along with a devastating offensive attack. And there's just some weird things happening where, like, Clint Capella isn't as good of a rim defender this year. Trae has regressed a lot on the defensive end of the floor. There's just not a ton of energy and effort. And I understand that you're not going to play the same level of defense in December that you were in the postseason the year prior. But it's just odd to see such a dramatic fall off without roster turnover. It's not like they lost anybody. They didn't lose John Collins. DeAndre Hunter isn't there right now, but he, again, was missing for good parts of the season last year when they were still a good defensive team. And they got to figure that out. And I think a lot of it comes down to, yes, getting healthier will help. We'll get to that in a second. But just recommitting to that end of the floor and understanding that you have the caliber of offense that can get you a top 4 seed in the East, where you can be a dangerous team in the postseason. When Atlanta's making shots, there's nothing you can really do to guard them. But if they're not defending on the other end of the floor, then they're just not a great basketball team. But they have the opportunity to. I think a lot of it comes down to energy, effort, and figuring out what's happening at the 5 spot, where Capella, for some reason, is just suddenly not as effective at deterring shots at the rim. And maybe part of that is it's just a weird statistical quirk that will work itself out through the season, but that is something to keep an eye on. And then, of course, we do have to talk about the injuries. There's 2 main guys here that are really, really hurting the Hawks by not being available. DeAndre Hunter being the first one. He's only played in 11 games. Granted, this is a team that unfortunately has gotten used to DeAndre Hunter not being around. It seems like every season he's missing large gaps of the year, and it sucks because he's a really, really good, fun player. He's pretty much perfect for what this team needs. He can play on the wing as a 2-way player that can make shots, can create a little bit, and a really good defender. And then when they go to bench units, if they want to slide John Collins to the 5 or just run Capella at the 5, they can put DeAndre Hunter at the 4, and he can really slide between those 2 spots and be a really productive, almost perfect fit. And then that really opens up a lot of different lineup combinations for Atlanta. Because like I said, he can play the 3 or the 4. You can put Reddish out there and have a really devastating wing combo defensively. You can go smaller and just really space everything out. You can put an all offense group around him and just make sure that he's the one guy out there guarding. Him not playing certainly hurts, but I mean, especially in this season with the protocol stuff and everything, there are plenty of teams that are getting very used to playing without some of their top players. And so it's just something Atlanta's going to have to deal with, and it's something that they should be pretty good at dealing with because Hunter's been missing games plenty for them lately. And then the other guy that hasn't missed as many games, but he's been in and out of the lineup a little bit, is Bogdanović. And he is so critical to this team and is arguably the biggest reason that they improved so much last year, you know, even in the beginning of the year, but then afterwards as well. Them really kind of taking off and bringing in Nate McMillan as the head coach, or elevating him to head coach, I guess, coincided directly with Bogdanović returning from injury. He does so many things for this team. His late game shot creation is fantastic. He takes so much pressure off of Trae. It allows Trae to play off the ball more, which keeps him fresher. And really, the weird part about this roster, which I'm kind of stepping on 3, we'll just go ahead and move on to 3 here since we're talking about Bogdanović in terms of problems with Atlanta. They don't actually have that many guards. So they almost have too many players, and they almost have too many wings, which is weird because that's all anybody wants in the league is they want flexible perimeter guys that can guard and can score. And Atlanta has a lot of those guys, but they don't actually have that many perimeter playmaking guys. Of course, they have Trae. Kevin Huerter's been playing better since he's become a starter. But Bogdanović is the other guy. He's the guy that can run second units and create for you. He's the guy that can allow Trae to be off the ball. And if it's not him, if he's not playing, then it's a lot of Kevin Huerter and some Cam Reddish stuff and Danilo Gallinari isolation post-ups, and there's just no flow. You can't run the offense the exact same way when Trae's off the floor and Bogdanović is on, but it's just so much different. It's not so heavily focused on Trae offensively, and it just balances out their team in such a nice way. And not having him out there certainly hurts. And again, part of it's a roster construction issue as well, which brings me to my last point. I don't think that Atlanta is necessarily in trouble. It's not a huge disaster. I do still think there's a ceiling here that with some adjustments could put this team on the trajectory of being a title contender this year and moving forward. But I don't think they have the roster right now. I've talked in the past about the fact that it seems relatively likely that Gallinari could get moved this year, given the commitments they have from a contract standpoint moving forward, him having a non-guaranteed deal for next year. He's essentially on and expiring this year if whoever traded for him did want to release him next year. It's non-guaranteed. And if they could move, it's tough because I like all their guys. Like I like Huerter, I like Bogey, I like Cam Reddish, I like DeAndre Hunter, I like Danilo Gallinari, but they have one too many guys. And if they could move Reddish and a pick for another perimeter playmaking guard, or Danilo Gallinari and a pick for a guy on the perimeter, because like I said, if Bogey's hurt, then it's Huerter, Trae, and like Lou Williams, who's playing like less than 15 minutes a game. They just don't have, weirdly, enough creation in the backcourt if they're not fully healthy. So making some kind of move like that, I do think would be pretty beneficial to them. But the bottom line here for Atlanta is it's pretty likely that they were just early on this. They were never supposed to be 2 games away from the finals last year, and they had an awesome, amazing run, and a lot of things clicked. And they figured things out on the defensive end, and they realized, man, we have an awesome, amazing offense. And if we can guard, we can be one of the best teams in the league. And they were just a little bit early, and that's okay. As long as they maintain the course, as long as they don't make any panic moves in terms of like the head coach or anything like that, and they don't make drastic roster changes, I think some tweaks here and a little bit of movement in the roster can create a really interesting situation moving forward for Atlanta. The only other point I would make here as it relates to Trae Young is, one, he's incredible. He's amazing. He's the focal point of the offense. He's one of the league leaders in points and assists. He's putting up statistics that literally nobody else in the league is putting up this year in terms of a combination of points and assists. However, like once out of every 10 to 15 possessions, he decides that he wants to be Steph and shoot the ball from 30 feet. And it doesn't make any sense to me because like when they were playing the Nets a week and a half ago, he got to the rim and got someone an open shot in every single high ball screen they set. Every single one. Every time he turned the corner, he was getting at the rim, he was dumping it off to a big for a dunk, or he was getting a wide open three for one of his teammates. And every single time that he came down the floor and shot the ball from 33 feet, I was relieved. I was like, oh, well, we got to stop there. If he would just continually put pressure on the defense every single time down the floor and stop trying to be Steph 1 out of every 15 possessions, it would dramatically improve his efficiency, the team's efficiency. I understand that that's a little bit nitpicky, but it's just, it's a pet peeve where it's like, why? There's one guy in the league, maybe two if you want to count Dame, that takes those shots consistently and makes them consistently, and you're not one of them, and that's okay. You're an incredible passer. You are so quick. You can get to the rim anytime you want to. Just don't try and be Steph. You don't need to be him. Just be Trae Young. Being Trae Young is plenty for what this team needs, and it can be that much better if you just focus on those things. That's my Trae rant. That's my Hawks rant. You guys let me know down in the comment section below. What are some moves you could see this team making? What do you think some of their main issues are? Because I do think they're a very, very interesting team considering where they finished last year and then how they began this season. But that is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you guys very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on screen. And yeah, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you all next time.